Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Take 5, where we take 5 minutes out of our day and just let some of the scriptures or some of the words of Christ get into our ears, but maybe into our lives as well. My hope is that these words are smart, the scripture words, not mine, but very relevant to where we live as well. And so we've been in the Sermon on the Mount. We just started it, and we are about to look into what are known as the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes, you either can spend 5 minutes or 5 years on them because they're really profound. And in many ways, 5 minutes is not enough to get into the detail of them, but to try to understand what they're saying, because they're about the characteristics of people that follow Christ. Not that you have to be this and then you are a Christian, because then that would be a sort of a works-based spirituality. It's not that at all. The characteristics of Christ followers are those who realize that their citizenship is from another kingdom. And so, just like when my father moved from Italy to the United States, he was living in the United States, but he still had a whole lot of Italian ways about him. And that's the way it is for Christian people. We live here, and yet so much of our ways internally that lead to our actions betray another kingdom. And that's the way it should be. In essence, the opposite of that would be wrong, where we're so tied down to the here and now that the life of Christ, the grace of Christ, doesn't filter through. So I'm just going to read them, make a few comments, and then we'll move on. But here are the Beatitudes. Beatitudes has to do with blessed. Remember, these are blessed are you who are this and that. So let me read and then make comment. Blessed are the poor in spirit. It's the first one. They're not spiritual giants. They're not the religious elite. They're the poor in spirit. They recognize that they're poor, that they're needy spiritually for sure. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. One day in heaven for sure, but theirs is the kingdom of heaven, meaning the citizenship is there even though you're living here. And so the sense of humility, the sense of being poor in spirit, not egotistic, not proud, but poor in spirit, is what makes the characteristic of the Christian in the way they live now. I wonder if you're poor in spirit. I wonder if you know what that would feel like. In a sense, it means I have so much to receive from Christ and not so much to give, to Him at least, and yet what He gives to me, I can certainly be generous with others. I'm poor in spirit. I know that there's something wrong or broken in the fiber of my being, and yet Christ can fill that. That's the member of the citizen of heaven. We're not going to get through this today in 5 minutes. Ready? Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Mourning, we looked at this in James too, is a characteristic of a Christ follower. In a sense it is, because to look at the world as beautiful as it is, and to look at life and see it for all the gift that it is also to know that there's something missing, there's something wrong. And so we do mourn. Life is a bit of minor key. I was just talking to a counselor friend of mine, and she was saying, every marriage, for the most part, is going to end bad. And by that, she didn't mean divorce. She could mean divorce, but she meant ultimately one of them is going to pass away. And that's what life is. Life is beautiful, but life is also difficult, and we recognize the difficulty, the brokenness, the sinfulness of life. And when we come to an understanding of that, we are mourners because we know how difficult it is. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. There will be a comfort one day, and it can happen as well today. God is a God of comfort. But being part of a different citizenship, we also recognize that the comfort comes from Christ, comes from His Word, comes from the fellowship of other people. It's really easy in this kingdom to find comfort in illicit drugs or in alcohol or in things that don't give comfort at all, at least not lasting comfort. We mourn because we recognize the fallenness of this world, and yet we also follow the one who is the God of all comfort. Those are the beginning of the attitudes, and that's the description of Christ followers. Tomorrow, I bet it takes the rest of the week, but we're going to continue describing the characteristic of a Christ follower as we go through the rest of these Beatitudes. I'll see you tomorrow.